I've had a few conversations recently with people that were based around one theme, and it is fear of pain returning. And the ironic thing is you can start to feel better, yet you can't enjoy that time of feeling better. You can't enjoy the present moment because you have this fear of the pain returning. And it's an ironic way of living, but I completely understand it because I know from my own experience that that is a possibility. You start to feel better, but you're very apprehensive because you don't quite trust the situation. It's like those types of people, and it's like probably a lot of people, who things are going too right in their life. Things are going too well, so they expect that right around the corner something bad is going to happen. So it's almost like they cause some like self-sabotage. It's just you can't enjoy things as they are because you're fearful of the future. And the question becomes, does the fear of the future or the fear of the pain returning create a self-fulfilling prophecy? And again, that's the life of the mind. That's things that you really can't prove. It's not testable in in a laboratory, and that's why scientists don't really like talking about that stuff, because you can't test it. I do believe that can happen. I think it puts your body into a state of alarm, or it keeps you in a state of alarm. And at that point, you never know what's going to happen. Fear. Remember what Yoda said. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and you are now Darth Vader. And the point is, that's a mythological motif theme. It's not a kids' movie thing. That is all the accumulated knowledge in the world, all the accumulated wisdom of the world is found in that statement. All religions teach it, all philosophies teach it. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate. And now you're in a state of fight or flight, and you're always seeing the negative in the world. Now, when you're in pain, when you're in chronic pain, it's not easy to see the positive. I've been there. It clouds your thoughts. You see all of life through a negative lens because all you've known for quite a long time is pain. So how do you deal with that? It's very easy to tell someone to stop thinking negatively. It's not so easy to stop thinking negatively when all your experiences, recently at least, have been negative. Now, of course, have all experiences been negative? Probably not. Even in the worst of times, there's usually moments of levity and laughter and where things don't hurt so much. However, overall, it's hard to break out of that cycle of negative thinking, which leads to more tension, and more tension may lead to, symptoms coming back. So you have to kind of, in order to break a cycle or break a pattern like we talk about in PRI, to get out of that pattern, you can't just get out of the pattern, you have to replace it with a new pattern. So you have to think, so this is what I did eventually. Now, when I had plantar fasciitis for 4.5, 5 years, however long it was, in both feet, that was every day. That was every minute of every day. There was no real break from that. Even when I got into bed at night, the pain was still there, and I knew, the discomfort at least, and I knew the next morning I would get up and I'd put my feet on the ground, that pain would come right back. So, of course, you don't rest, you don't sleep, you're constantly autonomically driven, you're sympathetic. It's not a good way to live. However, with the SI joint pain, it was a little bit different, because as bad as it was, I knew that after 7 or 10 days, the pain would subside enough that I could get back to normal life. I guess I pretty much knew, it's not like I didn't think it was gonna not happen again. I mean, I figured that was just part of my life at that point, and it was very frustrating, and it was very debilitating and depressing, quite a bit. But I don't know that I was afraid of it happening again. Maybe I was just accepting it. I'm not really positive. But because I knew that the pain would eventually go away, I just kind of had to wait it out. Now, I didn't really replace the negative thinking because I didn't have the negative thinking in terms of, oh, it's going to happen again, I'm so fearful. I wasn't fearful of it happening again. It was just not pleasant experience. However, if you've experienced benefit from PRI exercise, if you've gone from pain to having glimpses of calm, of not having pain, you got to realize that you've handled it, at least to a degree. So if it does come back, you have a technique, or techniques, plural, that you can use to get out of it again. So even if this SI joint pain were to come back for somebody, because sometimes the ache will come back, and I understand once you get that ache, you're like, oh, why is this happening? But you have techniques that will enable you to get out of that discomfort. So you shouldn't fear too much that the pain's going to come back, because you can handle it. When you feel powerless, when you feel like you don't have control of your own life and your own health, that's where the fear and anxiety really are. If you're aware that you're just stuck in a pattern and you've gotten relief because you've had these techniques that you can use, and you know, man, my back doesn't hurt anymore, this is great. You know that, again, if it comes back, you can use these techniques. So you have a certain amount of power. So that you can replace that disempowering belief of, oh my God, the pain's going to come back, with the understanding of, or a new belief or a new thought that it'll come back at some point, but I can just do these techniques. I'm going to take away that pattern. I'm going to get back to the left side, and it'll be okay. The other thing is that pain, just like everything in life, is conditional. There were certain conditions in your life that brought, and in the world at large, that coalesced and brought about a situation which involved pain. Conditions change. You're not the same person you were when that pain first occurred. Who else? You don't even know what else was going on in your life. Sometimes these things are subconscious. Again, that John Sarno book is really good about, you may have pain for reasons, you're repressing anger, sadness, whatever, and you don't even know it. I believe that does play a role in these patterns, because these patterns are reflections of of sympathetic overdrive. They are autonomic issues. Tension and anxiety are tension and anxiety. Doesn't matter whether it's just purely physical or purely emotional, psychological, behavioral, whatever you want to call it. It's the same system, it's the same one thing. It's a travesty that English, and I don't know if this is in other languages, that we don't have a word that indicates brain and body and mind all as one. Because of our language, we have to split these things up as if they were different, and it's the same system. So, maybe at that point in time, the straw that broke the camel's back was an event that occurred in your life that you don't even realize was something that was bothering you. Or maybe there was something that was going on in your life that was so emotional, and then you're exercising one day, and maybe you pick something up incorrectly, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But you now think, oh, it's this exercise that I'm fearful of doing, and you don't even realize that wasn't the main cause. That was just another small contributor, but you associate it with that exercise. There's so many different possibilities. But the point is that the conditions have changed. You're older. You might have developed new thoughts. You might have you may have acquired knowledge that you didn't have before. People may have come and go out of new people have entered your life, maybe other people have left your life. The conditions have changed, so maybe the conditions that brought about the pain are no longer there, but because you're still stuck in this cycle of thinking, of fear, that it's going to come back, maybe it sticks around longer than it needs to. Again, these are all things I've experienced, these are all things that I believe and I know can occur. I can't say that's happening in your life, but I do know that you need to give yourself empowerment. You need to believe that you have some type of control over this issue. And if you've had any glimpse of relief from pain, it means that you're not always in pain. It means that you do have a semblance of power over what's going on, even though it might not be perfect, because life is never perfect. I'm never perfectly, just amazingly light and carefree, and there's always tension in life. Life is inherently full of tension and anxiety. It's just part of being alive, because we die and we have choices in life, and it's all there. So life itself is full of tension and anxiety. It's going to be there because you have choices to make, and that's going to create anxiety, whatever. The point is, all these things come together. Conditions are constantly changing. If you get stuck in fearful thinking, and I understand it, but if you get stuck in this cycle of fearful thinking, I do think that it can play a role in prolonging the issues. If you can substitute empowering thoughts that conditions have changed, who I was then is not the same as now, so maybe this pain doesn't really have to be here, or maybe it won't come back at all. Or I have these techniques I can use to help me get out of pain, so I don't fear it. And I really do think that can be a really beneficial way of breaking this pattern of negative thinking, which I fully understand because I've been there. And maybe that will help prevent the pain from coming back. If you thought this video was helpful, useful, if you learned something and you like it, you could subscribe to the channel, you could share it, comment, like it. It all helps just to try to spread the word about postural restoration, and I would appreciate that. Thanks.